Jack Ma, from humble beginnings to global visionary. In the autumn of 1995, a 30-year-old English teacher stood frozen in a small Seattle home, staring at a computer screen as if he'd witnessed a miracle. Jack Ma had just encountered the internet for the first time, and in that moment, as he typed beer into the search bar and watched results from American, German, and Japanese breweries flood the screen, he saw not just websites, but a future that would transform China. It was a future that, improbably, this short, wiry man with an infectious laugh and no technology background would help create. Despite failing his college entrance exam twice, being rejected from Harvard 10 times, and receiving no from 30 different jobs, including one at KFC. From his humble beginnings leading bicycle tours for visiting foreigners to practice his broken English, to gathering 18 friends in his tiny apartment to build an empire, to standing on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, overseeing the world's largest IPO, Jack Ma's journey reads like a modern fairy tale. But unlike the heroes of ancient stories, this modern-day warrior wielded not a sword, but a dream. To build a company that would last 300 years, empower small businesses across the globe, and prove that, as he often said with a grin, "Today is cruel. Tomorrow is crueler, but the day after tomorrow is beautiful." The journey of Jack Ma, from humble beginnings to visionary entrepreneur. The streets of Hangzhou in the 1960s echoed with the sound of political slogans and revolutionary songs. While China's cultural elite faced persecution and its intellectuals were sent to rural labor camps, young Jack Ma found refuge in an unlikely place, the Westlake Hotel, where foreign tourists gathered. There, amid the chaos of the Cultural Revolution, the skinny boy with a perpetual smile would wake before dawn, cycling 40 minutes through the city's mist-shrouded streets to intercept English-speaking visitors. Not for money, at least not at first, but for something far more precious: conversations in English. His father, Malaifa, earned 10 yuan a month as a photographer, barely enough to feed Jack and his 2 siblings. The family subsisted on a monthly ration of meat no bigger than Jack's small palm. But what the Ma household lacked in material wealth, it made up for in storytelling. Each night, Malaifa would gather his children to share traditional Chinese tales of resilience and wit, often featuring clever merchants and resourceful traders. These stories planted seeds in young Jack's imagination, though no one could have predicted they would one day bloom into an empire. At school, Jack's academic performance bordered on disastrous. Mathematics particularly tormented him. He would later joke that he was probably the worst math student in the world, failing the subject repeatedly and scoring an abysmal 1 out of 120 points on his college entrance exam. But while numbers eluded him, people did not. He developed an uncanny ability to connect with strangers, particularly the Western tourists who became his informal English teachers. One American tourist, struck by Jack's enthusiasm, gave him the nickname Jack, a name that would later grace business headlines worldwide. The defining moment of his youth came during a sweltering summer day in 1978, when a foreign family hired him as their guide. As they walked along Westlake's ancient causeways, Jack's broken English somehow bridging cultural chasms, the family's youngest son asked why he did this for free. Jack's response would foreshadow his entire business philosophy. Because by serving others, you also serve yourself. That day, he earned his first tip $3 that felt like a fortune. But more importantly, he learned a lesson about creating value that would one day help him build one of the world's largest digital marketplaces. Jack Ma's early journey, finding his voice, 1984 to 1994. The hallways of Hangzhou Teachers Institute buzzed with an unusual energy when Jack Ma began teaching English there in 1988. At just 24 years old, he was barely older than his students, but his classroom became legendary on campus. While other professors drilled grammar rules, Ma regaled his pupils with tales of Western business practices, global trade, and the art of negotiation subjects he had gleaned from countless conversations with tourists over the years. His students didn't realize it then, but they were witnessing the emergence of what would become known as Jack Ma style, a unique blend of storytelling, business acumen, and relentless optimism. In 1992, Ma embarked on a business venture that would become his first spectacular failure. Using $20,000 borrowed from relatives, a sum that represented multiple years of family savings, he opened a translation agency called Hope Translation. The business struggled immediately. During one particularly crushing moment, Ma discovered that a client had absconded with all their interpretation equipment, leaving him deep in debt. Rather than admitting defeat, he gathered his small team in a local park and made them a promise. "We'll eat rice today, but we'll eat better tomorrow." The business ultimately failed, but Ma's leadership during crisis foreshadowed the resilience he would later need at Alibaba. His life changed dramatically in 1995 when a friend invited him to visit the United States. Until then, Ma had never touched a computer. His first stop was Washington State, where he stayed with a family in Seattle. One morning, while everyone else slept, Ma sat alone at their desktop computer. His friend's wife had shown him how to use a keyboard the night before. With trembling fingers, he typed beer into a search engine. What happened next would alter the course of Chinese business history, but that's a story for our next chapter. The years between 1984 and 1994 transformed Jack Ma from a struggling English teacher into something far more complex, a dreamer who had tasted both failure and possibility. He married Zhang Ying, who would later become his closest business confidant, famously telling her, "If we go into business and fail, at least we'll have amazing stories to tell our grandchildren." Little did they know, their grandchildren would have far more extraordinary tales to hear. Tales of billion-dollar IPOs, global empire building, and a revolution in how China shopped. But first, Ma would need to meet the technology that would change everything, the internet. From China pages to Alibaba, Jack Ma's early internet journey, 1995 to 1998. That fateful morning in Seattle, after typing beer into the search engine, Jack Ma spent hours glued to the computer screen, missing breakfast and barely noticing when his hosts woke up. When he searched for China, he found nothing, not a single piece of data about his homeland. The void hit him like a thunderbolt. While Silicon Valley buzzed with innovation and America's digital revolution surged forward, China remained invisible in this new digital world. By sunset, Ma had scrolled pages of notes about something called the Internet, though he could barely explain what it was to his puzzled friends back home. Within months of returning to Hangzhou, Ma launched China Pages, one of the country's first internet companies. Operating from a tiny apartment with walls so thin they could hear the neighbors' mahjong games, Ma and his wife scraped together $2,000 to buy their first computer. The machine took 3 hours just to load a single web page, and creating a website cost nearly $5,000, a fortune in mid-1990s China. Yet Ma convinced local companies to pay him to build their digital presence, often by promising them access to international markets they could barely imagine. His pitch meetings became local legends, with Ma gesticulating wildly as he described this invisible internet thing that would revolutionize business. But China pages soon hit a wall that would teach Ma his hardest lesson yet. Partnering with China Telecom seemed like a coup for the fledgling company, but the state-owned giant slowly squeezed Ma out of his own venture. During one particularly tense meeting, a government official dismissed Ma's passionate objections with 6 words that would haunt him. "If you can't beat them, join them." Ma chose a different path. He quit. The experience crystallized a principle that would later define Alibaba: maintain independence at all costs. As he cleared out his desk, Ma told his wife, "I'll never work for a big company again. Next time, I'll make the big company work for us." The years between China Page's rise and fall weren't just about business failures. They were Ma's crash course in China's emerging digital economy. He watched as foreign companies like Yahoo and eBay eyed the Chinese market, their executives dismissing local entrepreneurs as unsophisticated competition. In late 1998, while recovering from another failed venture, Ma gathered a small group of friends in his apartment. Over steaming cups of green tea, he shared a vision that seemed absurd at the time: a Chinese company that would make Silicon Valley giants bow out of the world's largest market. They laughed, but Ma was already sketching plans on napkins. Alibaba was about to be born. The rise of Alibaba, 18 warriors in an apartment. On a humid February morning in 1999, 18 people squeezed into Jack Ma's modest Hangzhou apartment. The group was a motley crew: teachers, students, and dreamers, most of whom had never written a line of code. Ma stood before them, perched on a plastic chair in his living room, and delivered a speech that would later become Silicon Valley legend. "If we go forward together with hot hearts and cool minds, we will definitely succeed." Then came the harder part. He asked each person to put forward 500 yuan, about $60, creating the initial funding pool for what he called Alibaba. When one member asked why he chose the name, Ma replied with his characteristic grin: "Because Alibaba served the little guys and opened doors." The early days were brutal. The team worked from 8 a.m. to midnight, sleeping on office floors and subsisting largely on instant noodles. Ma's wife, Jiang Ying, managed their meager finances with iron discipline. Their first office, a one-room apartment in the Lakeside Gardens residential complex, became so cramped that team members had to take turns sitting down. Yet spirits remained remarkably high. Ma instituted daily kung fu exercises and demanded that each employee choose a kung fu nickname. His own was Feng Qing Yang, after a swordsman who trained the protagonist in a famous martial arts novel. By 2000, as the dot-com bubble reached its peak, Alibaba had burned through most of its initial funding. Then came a moment that changed everything. Goldman Sachs agreed to invest $5 million, followed by a staggering $20 million from SoftBank's Masayoshi Son. The investment meeting with Sun lasted only 5 minutes. Ma's charisma and vision were so compelling that Sun later admitted he invested based on a gut feeling about Ma's eyes. Yet within months, the dot-com bubble burst. Internet companies worldwide began collapsing. Ma gathered his team and announced that half of their new funding would be locked away, untouchable. "Winter is coming," he warned, "and we need to store nuts." The crisis that followed would have destroyed most companies, but Ma had prepared his warriors. While competitors burned cash on lavish offices and expensive advertising, Alibaba focused on a single metric: helping small businesses survive. They created a free platform for small merchants to list products, generating zero revenue but building immense user loyalty. When critics called this strategy suicidal, Ma responded with what would become one of his most famous quotes: "We don't lack money, we lack people with dreams." As the internet winter deepened and dot-com corpses piled up, Alibaba not only survived but thrived. By 2003, they had over 1 million registered users, and something far more valuable, a battle-tested team that believed they could accomplish anything. They would need that belief for their next challenge, taking on eBay, the global giant that was determined to dominate China's e-commerce market. The Taobao Revolution, transforming Chinese e-commerce, 2003 to 2008. In the spring of 2003, as the SARS epidemic paralyzed China, Jack Ma made a decision that seemed suicidal to everyone except his core team. He launched Taobao, a direct competitor to eBay's Chinese operation. While eBay charged listing fees and focused on auction-style sales, Taobao would be entirely free and emphasize instant purchases. The timing was eerily perfect, with millions of Chinese confined to their homes during the SARS outbreak. Online shopping suddenly shifted from luxury to necessity. When eBay's CEO Meg Whitman flew to China to assess this upstart competitor, she publicly dismissed Taobao as insignificant. Ma responded by gathering his team in their emergency command center, his apartment where they'd all quarantined together during SARS. He unveiled what he called the Iron Triangle, combining Taobao's free marketplace with Alipay's escrow system and a real-time chat feature called Wang Wang. In a country where trust between strangers was traditionally low, this combination proved revolutionary. Buyers could chat directly with sellers, money would be held safely until goods were received, and the entire process cost merchants nothing. The battle that followed transformed Chinese commerce. eBay spent millions on television advertising. Taobao responded with grassroots marketing in small cities and rural areas. When eBay touted its global reach, Ma emphasized Taobao's understanding of local culture, even including a virtual tea room where buyers and sellers could build relationships through chat. eBay relied on its sophisticated search algorithm. Taobao created a shopping experience that felt more like exploring a vibrant street market, complete with bright colors and flashing animations that Silicon Valley designers would have dismissed as cluttered. By 2006, Taobao had achieved what many thought impossible. It commanded 67% of China's online shopping market. eBay, unable to adapt to local preferences and outmaneuvered at every turn, retreated from China. The victory was sealed when Ma received a call from Whitman herself, proposing a partnership rather than competition. Ma's response became legendary in Chinese business circles. "It's too late." This wasn't mere bravado. Taobao had fundamentally changed how Chinese consumers thought about shopping. The platform wasn't just a website. It had become a digital bazaar where hundreds of millions of Chinese citizens gathered daily to browse, chat, and dream about their next purchase. The little company that started in an apartment had grown into China's digital town square, and Ma's vision of serving the small merchant had scaled beyond anyone's wildest expectations, except perhaps his own. The rise of Alibaba, from Singles Day to global dominance. In the winter of 2009, Ma stood before a room of skeptical executives and pitched what seemed like a preposterous idea: a shopping holiday celebrating singlehood. Singles Day, falling on November 11th, 11/11ths, was already a tongue-in-cheek celebration among Chinese youth. Ma proposed turning it into the biggest shopping event in human history. His team was dubious. Discounting products for singles seemed like a recipe for losing money. But Ma saw something deeper, a chance to transform loneliness into a celebration of self-reward. The first Singles Day sale in 2009 generated $7.8 million in revenue. 4 years later, it would break $5.8 billion in just 24 hours, crushing Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. Meanwhile, Alipay was quietly revolutionizing how Chinese citizens handled money. In a country where many distrusted traditional banks, Alipay became a digital wallet for everything from buying groceries to investing in money market funds. Yuibao, Alipay's investment product launched in 2013, grew to manage $87 billion in its first year, making it one of the world's largest money market funds almost overnight. Traditional banks, initially dismissive of this internet gimmick, watched in alarm as millions of Chinese citizens began storing their savings in Alipay's digital vault. By 2014, Ma's empire had expanded far beyond its e-commerce roots. Alibaba Group now included a cloud computing division, rivaling Amazon Web Services in Asia, a digital payment system processing more transactions than Visa, and a logistics network capable of delivering packages to the remotest villages in China. The company's reach extended into entertainment, healthcare, and artificial intelligence. When asked about this seemingly scattered approach, Ma responded with characteristic metaphorical flair. "We're not building a company. We're building an economy." This explosive growth culminated in September 2014, when Alibaba filed for its IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. The numbers were staggering: 231 million active buyers, 8 million active sellers, and $248 billion in merchandise volume flowing through its platforms annually. On the morning of September 19th, Ma stood on the floor of the NYSE, surrounded by 8 Alibaba customers, not executives, but small business owners who'd built their livelihoods on his platforms. As the opening bell rang and Alibaba stock began trading, it became the largest IPO in history, raising $25 billion and valuing the company at $231 billion. Ma, the former English teacher who had once struggled to make $12 a month, was now China's richest man. But as he told reporters that day, his focus wasn't on the money. "We have a dream," he said, "that in the next 15 years, the world changes because of us." Jack Ma, from visionary leader to global icon, 2014 to 2019. Post-IPO Jack Ma emerged as something unprecedented in global business, a Chinese entrepreneur who could command attention in any room, from Davos to Silicon Valley. At the World Economic Forum in 2017, Ma took the stage wearing a black suit that seemed at odds with his impish grin. The audience of global elites leaned forward as he declared, "If you're still poor at 35, you deserve it." The provocative statement, classic Ma style, masked a deeper message about personal responsibility that would later be quoted in business schools worldwide. His Hollywood connections flourished during this period, culminating in a short film where Ma starred alongside martial arts legends like Jet Li and Donnie Yen. The movie, Gong Shou Dao, featured Ma performing Tai Chi moves against professional fighters, a metaphor for his business philosophy of turning apparent weakness into strength. While critics dismissed it as vanity, the film served a deeper purpose, promoting Tai Chi as part of Chinese cultural heritage, one of Ma's passionate causes. Behind the glamorous appearances, Ma was orchestrating Alibaba's most ambitious expansion yet. The company poured billions into Southeast Asian e-commerce platform Lazada, Indian digital payment service Paytm, and a complex network of logistics and cloud computing services spanning the globe. His vision of Electronic World Trade Platform, EWTP, a digital Silk Road, began materializing as Alibaba built digital trading hubs from Malaysia to Ethiopia. When questioned about competing with Amazon globally, Ma's response highlighted his distinct vision. Jeff Bezos is focused on dominating the market. I'm focused on making it rain. In September 2019, on his 55th birthday, Ma stepped down as executive chairman of Alibaba with characteristic theatrical flair. At a stadium packed with 60,000 employees, he donned a rock star outfit and performed songs from The Lion King. But his farewell speech struck a more philosophical note that captured his journey. The thing I want to share with everyone: don't view Alibaba as a job. It's a university where you can learn. As he walked off stage, few realized this marked not just the end of an era for Alibaba, but a pivotal moment in global business history. The first time a founder of a major tech company had successfully orchestrated their own succession while their company was at its peak. Jack Ma, a legacy of innovation, philanthropy, and global impact. In the years following Ma's departure from Alibaba's chairmanship, his impact on global business became clearer than ever. The numbers told part of the story. By 2020, Alibaba's platforms were processing over $1 trillion in annual transactions, serving more than 1 billion users worldwide. But Ma's true legacy lay in something less quantifiable: the transformation of Chinese entrepreneurship itself. In cities across China, a new generation of founders emerged, all citing the Ma Yun spirit of resilience and innovation. Even competitors acknowledged that Ma had changed the rules of business in China, proving that a private company could thrive while maintaining independence from state-owned enterprises. Ma's philanthropic ventures revealed a different side of his vision. The Jack Ma Foundation poured billions into rural education, focusing particularly on developing rural teachers and young entrepreneurs in Africa. His environmental initiatives included protecting water resources and promoting sustainable development. When asked why he focused on education rather than more immediate concerns, Ma's response reflected his long-term thinking. A child educated today will create value for society for 40 years. He established the Africa Netpreneur Prize, a $10 million initiative to identify and nurture African entrepreneurs, demonstrating his belief that the next great business innovations would come from unexpected places. Yet perhaps Ma's most profound impact was on China's relationship with the world of technology and innovation. The era of China being seen as merely the world's factory was decisively ended. Through Alibaba's success, Ma showed that Chinese tech companies could not only compete globally, but could pioneer new business models that Western companies would scramble to emulate. Singles Day became studied in business schools worldwide, while Alipay's integration of social, commercial, and financial services forced global tech giants to rethink their own approaches to digital payments and e-commerce. As Ma focused on his philanthropic work, frequently appearing at rural schools and environmental conferences rather than business forums, he offered one final lesson to the world of business. At a remote school in Yunnan province, speaking to a group of rural teachers, he summed up his philosophy. What matters isn't what you achieve, but what you inspire others to achieve. The former English teacher who once struggled to persuade people that the internet was worth investing in had become something more than a business success story. He had become a symbol of possibility itself, proving that with enough persistence, creativity, and optimism, the most improbable dreams could become reality. The Art of Dreaming. Big. Jack Ma's Legacy. On a crisp morning in late 2024, a small crowd gathered at a rural school in Hangzhou's outskirts. Jack Ma, dressed in simple clothing that belied his vast wealth, stood before a classroom teaching English, a deliberate echo of where his journey began. But this time, instead of struggling with basic vocabulary, he was teaching students about artificial intelligence, global trade, and the power of cross-cultural understanding. When I started, he told them, China was just learning about the internet. Now you're all born into a digital world. Your challenge isn't to catch up, it's to leap forward. The parallel between this moment and his early days as an English teacher provided a perfect lens through which to view his legacy. The number spoke volumes. Alibaba's ecosystem had helped create over 40 million jobs, enabled millions of small businesses to reach global markets, and fundamentally altered how people shop, pay, and interact in the digital age. But beyond the statistics lay a deeper truth about the nature of transformative change. Ma's greatest accomplishment wasn't just building a technology empire. It was proving that wild dreams, when pursued with unwavering determination, could reshape reality itself. As he finished his lesson, one student raised her hand and asked the same question Ma had faced countless times throughout his career. What's your secret to success? Ma paused, then shared what would become his final addition to his philosophy of business and life. The secret isn't in being the smartest or the richest or even the most innovative. The secret is in believing that impossible is just a word that describes something no one has been crazy enough to try yet. With that, he gathered his things and walked out into the Hangzhou sunshine, leaving behind not just a business empire, but a testament to the power of relentless optimism in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds.